Hi, I'm Gwenydd Jones of the Translators studio, specialists in translator training. In this video, I interview Sarah Bowyer, a French and Spanish to English translator who specialises in law and sport. Sarah talks about transitioning into freelance translation from her full-time career as a solicitor, planning her business, and how specialisation has enabled her to combine her legal knowledge with her love of football. Sarah has a great anecdote about how she won a quote at the start of her career, even though her price was the highest. Translators, I give you Sarah Bowyer. Sarah, tell us the story of how you became a translator.
Well, I came to translation quite a long way round, really. I started off on quite a traditional route and studied languages at university, lots of budding translators. And we did some translation in class at uni, but it was mostly literary translation. I didn't really experience the whole range of things that translators do. And at the time, I didn't consider it as a career option. And instead, I went off to become a lawyer, and I did a law degree, a law conversion course, and then went to work at a big law firm in London. And it was an international firm, so it was quite multilingual, and I did have opportunities to use languages, but it wasn't really the main part of the job. So if I did get a translation to do, it would just be me kind of having a go and trying my best without any particular translation skills, and muddling through that way. And I did that for quite a long time. I ended up spending 6 months on secondment in Brussels, which was great because that was a good chance to get used to some EU law and to work in a really multilingual environment. I think there were people from 10 or 11 different countries in my office, so I was constantly hearing lots of other languages, which was great. And after a while in law, I just decided it was time for something different, and I wanted more flexibility. And I could see that I was moving away from the things that I really enjoyed. So I kind of sat down and
do you mean working as a lawyer, you were moving away from what you enjoyed?
Yeah, I think, yes, I think it was stopping me from doing kind of the things outside of work that I enjoyed. And also in my work, I wasn't doing as much. I think sometimes when you become more senior, you end up doing more managerial tasks and you do less of the actual law side, or you don't get to speak to people in other countries quite so much because you're not really liaising with them so often. It's down to the junior lawyers and the trainees. And then I was signed up, I remember I was signed up for a Catalan class. I think towards the end of my law career, I'd signed up for this Catalan class at the Instituto Cervantes in Manchester. And I could never go. I went to the first couple of classes, and then it was every Friday night. And every Friday night I was in the office doing some kind of deal or thing that needed to be done before the weekend, and I never got to go. And I just thought, this isn't how I want to spend the rest of my life, because I want to make sure that I do have time to do the things that I really love. And I knew that was going to involve languages. So I looked into different career options, and translation quickly became something that I was really keen on, because I wanted the flexibility. I wanted to be able to work from home or wherever else I wanted to work from, really. And so then I gradually started to lay the groundwork to become a translator, because I soon realised that it wasn't just about being able to speak other languages, and there was a lot more to it than that. So I did some volunteering. I volunteered with Translators Without Borders and United Nations, and I did a kind of translators business skills course. So I looked at the professional bodies for translation in the UK, and one of them is called the ITI, and they ran a course kind of teaching you week by week the different kind of business things that you would need to consider if you want to become a freelancer. So I took that course, and by the end of it, I'd got a really good plan in place, actually much quicker than I thought. And I was ready to go. And so I took the plunge. And I'm really pleased I did, actually.
And how long did it take you to build up a client portfolio?
I think I started at the beginning of the year and I was really busy within 3 or 4 months. But I'm still building my client portfolio now. I think these things really evolve, and over time, you can start to target clients in the areas that you really want to work in. So I mean, obviously I specialise in law because I have that background, but it was also really important to me to do something I enjoyed. Something that was kind of a hobby for me outside of law. And so I combined it with sports, and gradually sports has narrowed and narrowed and narrowed, and it's become football, and quite often it's football law. So I mean, that just keeps happening, and you find that you work with other translators and you get referrals from them, or just opportunities come up in the strangest of places. But yeah, I was busy quite quickly, but I put that down to having had a bit of the luxury of having some time beforehand to do lots of planning.
Okay, yeah, planning time. Do you think that also your legal specialisation helped?
Yeah, definitely. I think I came with a ready-made specialism and credentials that meant that people could trust that I knew what I was doing when it came to legal texts, and kind of had that background. And my first job, I remember quoting for it, and I was really excited to have the opportunity to quote for a job. And it was for a really important legal case in family law, and it was working for one of the individuals in the case, and so it was crucial for him that it was right. And I had to go through a kind of competitive quoting process, and I think I was the most expensive, but he went with me because he trusted me to do it, and to do it well. And because he said I was the only one that explained kind of what the terms and conditions were before he entered into the contract for the translation, and also because I think, it needed to be certified. And so I talked to him about that beforehand and asked him kind of what kind of certification he needed, and sort of had a dialogue with the lawyers about what was needed for the court. And so he knew that, he could trust me, and I think it built, it really reassured him, I think. So yeah, it definitely helps.
And what has been one of your biggest failures?
Well, I think there are always setbacks in everything, and I don't like to talk about failures very often, because I think they're only failures if you don't learn from them. I sound like a self-help guru, maybe, but I think my one big one that stands out is probably one that's familiar to a lot of people, which was failing my driving test a few times.
A few times.
3 times, and I gave up, which is probably, giving up is probably the biggest failure of all. But I think at the first time I was learning to drive, and I was 17, and I hadn't failed an exam before, and it felt like such a big deal. And when I look back now, I can see exactly why I failed, and I didn't really do the preparation because I was a bit scared of the whole thing. And when I went on my driving lessons, we just drove around in the countryside and did all the really easy bits, and I really relied on my instructor to kind of tell me everything that I needed. And I don't think I was particularly proactive about it, and I didn't practice outside my lessons. And so the first time, it's so embarrassing. The first time I went down this road, I was on my driving test, and I went down, and I found myself going down a one-way street the wrong way. And then I was trying to turn right off the street. Like, you need to be in the other lane.
Don't feel I failed my first driving test too. I sped because I knew I'd failed on the reverse park, and then I failed doing 40 miles per hour where I should have been doing 30 miles per hour. So it wasn't. You're not alone.
So I think, actually, although I was really disappointed at the time, I think it really helped me with my approach to tests and exams, because I think it took the pressure off a lot, because I realised that actually once I had failed, it wasn't, the world didn't come crashing down, and I could get up and have another go, or another few goes. And it was fine. But that's the most memorable one, I think. I still just feel that element of panic when I realised
I failed an exam.
Turned down the wrong button.
Yeah.
But I now know to prepare properly and to, you know, to prepare what you need to do for the exam, and kind of to think about what the test route is or what the syllabus is, and to focus on that rather than just doing the easy bits and being really complacent. And
yeah, relying on iPass exams. That I mean, the same thing happened to me, and I can still remember I was in school, and I went back to school, and I remember my boyfriend at the time, I don't know why he was there, but he was just outside the school, and I remember just crying my eyes out, which is something I would never have done, because I was just couldn't believe I'd managed to fail this driving test. And so yeah, I feel you, and it is true, I was complacent. I thought I would pass it, and nope, you learn a hard lesson there, and maybe the next time you plan a little better, work a little harder beforehand. So I don't want to ask you for advice for upcoming translators, but what about it, like a message for them? What would be your message to somebody who's just starting out or has had a few clients but they want to grow in the industry? What message would you give them?
I think the thing that really surprised me and that I really loved about the translation world was kind of what a lovely experience working with other translators has been. And I suppose I've come from quite a cutthroat profession in some respects, because law can be quite aggressive and you're kind of often pitted against one another, and so it would be natural to see other translators as competition. But actually I found that it's really good to talk to other translators, to build friendships with translators and networks, and to really engage with them. And it's a great way to learn. It's a great way to get feedback, and it's a really good way to win business and get referrals as well. So don't forget to actually engage with other people around you, and you're not on your own. Although you might be a freelancer, you're never really alone in the whole business, and people have got lots of experience that they're happy to share.
Yeah, it's great to just have some other people in your day, because it can be quite isolating when you start to work from home. And what about, final question, what does the future look like for you now going forward?
Well, I don't like to plan too far ahead, but I think first and foremost, I'm a working translator, and I want to keep it that way. I want to stay busy with the clients that I have. And as I said before, I think I'm gradually becoming more specialised and working directly with clients. So a few weeks ago, I had a client who invited me to their training day, and I was able to spend a day, albeit online, with them, kind of learning more about what they do and kind of what happens behind the scenes and how they work on their style guides and all that kind of thing. So I'd love to continue to work with clients like that, and to really form those relationships, because I think that's something that I really enjoy about translating, and it's the people side of it, and getting to know people and getting to know businesses. I suppose I'm fundamentally a bit nosy, because I want to know all about people's businesses and kind of how they work and what they do. And so yeah, I think it will be doing more of that kind of work. And then I'm really happy to have added another string to my bow, and working in tutoring and coaching people. And that's, it's something that I've always done throughout my career, even in law. I think my favourite part of the job was being a trainee supervisor and kind of passing on what I'd learned. And so now that I've started to work with you at the Translator Studio, I'm really, really enjoying kind of meeting people and taking part in the workshops, and hearing other people's ideas and how they approach it. It goes back to what I was just saying about collaborating with other translators. It really keeps me motivated. It keeps things fresh, I think, and it adds a bit of variety into what I'm doing as well, which is no bad thing, because anything can get stale if you're doing it all day, every day. Mm-hmm. So to have some diversification is good for business, but it's also just really good for my well-being, I think, and morale, if you like. Because
yeah, I definitely agree with you.
It's lovely to come into contact with people like that, and to see them improving is fantastic. And so hopefully I'll be doing more of that, and developing more courses and that kind of thing as an extra string to my bow.
Well, that's fantastic, Sarah. Thank you very much for speaking.
It's a pleasure.
I hope you enjoyed this interview from the Translators studio. We specialise in teaching the art of translation and in preparing translators for certification through the Diptrans exam. If you like our content, please let us know by clicking on the subscribe button. See you in the next video.